Okay, good morning, class. Today we're going to go over chapter 17 and meal planning and service. Our objectives are describe four criteria that must be addressed when developing children's menus, explain how weekly and cycle menus differ, plan snacks that meet the nutrition requirements of toddlers, preschoolers, and school-aged children, create mealtime environments that are inviting for children and adults, and describe four strategies for controlling food costs. How confident are you or how knowledgeable are you about children's nutritional needs? What do you think you need to learn more about being a better meal planner? Characteristics of a well-planned menu. A well-planned meal consists of meeting children's needs and developmental abilities, addresses the at-risk nutrients, which are vitamin A, C, potassium, calcium, and iron, and satisfy all licensing and program guidelines and regulations for Head Start and the CACFP program, the National School Lunch, and School Breakfast. A well-planned menu is appealing to children. It includes a wide variety of familiar and new foods for children to try. It is visually pleasing, the color, the texture, the shapes, the temperature. It reflects children's cultural, the ethnics, and religious preferences. As of now, I am the cook at the center also. So when I do plan the menus for each week, I try to make sure if I know the children don't like broccoli, I still will include it. And I know, for example, they don't really like cottage cheese. And the teachers were telling me, oh, they don't like cottage cheese, which is fine if they don't like it. But like I tell the teaching staff, I want to make sure that I am providing something different because they probably have never tasted cottage cheese or looked at cottage cheese before at home, especially when we are always on the go as parents, trying to make sure we are working, we have schedules, we're trying to go to school. So we're more than likely the children are getting a lot of fast food and not really eating healthy meals all the time. Now I can say maybe on the weekends or family time, they may be getting prepared meals, healthy meals, lifestyle meals, but majority of the time it's probably something fast and quick from McDonald's, like chicken nuggets. And I can kind of tell which families are providing healthy meals because those are our picky eaters and they only want to eat certain types of food. But when I do create the menu, I try to make it very appealing where it hits a fruit, a vegetable, and a meat target. And I do have one family that religious reasons, I don't provide any pork, is strictly beef. So, we do have to honor those ethnic and cultural religions. A well planned menu provides nutritious substitutes for children who have food allergies. Prepare with foods that have been stored, handled, and served safely and stay within our budget without sacrificing nutrition quality. Mentioning budget, we are now approved for our CACFP program, which they provide reimbursements for our meals and including the milk as well. And then they get a percentage of what we send them. I have to send in the receipts. I have to send in every menu that I prepare. I have to provide the amount of ounces that each child it takes within according to their age because they have a CACFP reimbursement for every child according to their age, how many ounces of food that each child is supposed to eat according to agriculture. Sensory considerations in meal planning. Color and flavor combinations can make a meal more or less appealing. That is so true. I'm very, very picky when I cook, even at home. I I have people that laugh at me because if it's not appealing to me, I know it's not appealing to you. So I'm not going to touch it. I'm not going to eat it. So I'm not going to give you something that I wouldn't want to eat. So I try to make sure everything is very appealing. It has not a lot of seasoning that you would probably do at home, but some seasoning, because no seasoning at all, I wouldn't want to eat it either, because I'd be trying to put some salt and pepper on it myself, even though I know the children can't. We can't provide them with season. But while you're cooking, you need to at least add a little something to make it, give it flavor. By looking at the picture on the side, how would you change this meal to enhance its visual and taste appeal? Chicken tenders and fries, biscuit, cauliflower, and milk. I have tried cauliflower at the center and they do not like it. But they didn't like cottage cheese either at first, but now they're beginning to like the cottage cheese. Even though with the sensory issues, when I first introduced cottage cheese to the children in the classrooms, I told the teacher and staff they didn't have to eat it, but at least try to encourage them to eat it. And if they don't eat it, at least try to encourage our sensories that they just touch it. They just touch it, because that's just providing the sensory of, oh, I touched it. Maybe next time they'll put it in their mouth to try to taste it. Color and flavor. How would you change this meal to make it more colorful and flavorful? Mac and cheese, corn, milk, and bananas. So you have to think about, just think if you were at home and think of on your level, how would you want it presented to you? It's really just that kind of that simple. Texture, soft or chewy, and temperature, hot or cold. Combinations can also enhance or distract from children's willingness to eat. We, at another center I worked at, one time they brought our meals in and it was pretty hot. And so we started talking to the children about hot and cold. That's a good way to bring on hot and cold. What foods are hot, what foods are cold. And even with the toddlers, you can do that, not to a certain extent as with the preschoolers, but with the toddlers, you can at least have them show them examples, hot, cold, or show them how to blow their food if it's too hot before they try to eat it. And tell them before you give it to them, this is still warm, or this is still a little hot. So I'm going to wait a few minutes. But if it's still warm to the touch of others, you want to show them how to blow it and to touch it first to make sure it's not too hot before they touch it or put it in their mouths. Because if it's too hot and then it burns them, they'll probably never want to eat it again, or they'll be hesitant before they try to eat it again. Knowledge check. Why would an early childhood program chose to participate in the Child and Adult Care Food Program? To be eligible for free food commodities, to receive reimbursement for food expenditures, to have access to recipes and standardized menu plans, to be acknowledged for their excellence in serving nutritious meals, to receive reimbursement. And that's what we do. We receive a monthly reimbursement. And it's really good reimbursement, because the majority of my purchases, we receive most of it, 80 to 90, 85% of it, I get that money back that I have just spent for the month. But you also have to provide receipts as well. So they have to actually see that you purchased that food. Programs must meet specific criteria to participate in the CACFP Food Federal Reimbursement Program. They must be licensed, serve meals that meet the CACFP meal patterns, and include only approved meals, maintain and submit monthly food records, and pass the periodic CACFP program audits. And they will give you a approved list of items that they do reimburse you for. For example, they do not reimburse you for boxed macaroni and cheese. They do not reimburse you for the Nutri-Grain bars. You can still give it to them on their meal, but you will have to get something to also substitute for that mac and cheese or that Nutri-Grain bar for breakfast, because you're not going to get reimbursed for it. CACFP meal pattern. Breakfast, you have to give them a milk, fruit juice, 100% fruit juice, or vegetable, bread or cereal, and everything has to be whole grain as much as possible. Lunch or supper, you have to provide milk, meat or meat alternate, or you can like do a grilled cheese sandwich in place of meat or beans. And then you have to have a fruit. Well, for my lunch, I give them a fruit. You have to give them a fruit and a vegetable. And then you have to have a whole grain on the side, whole grain bread, to receive all 5 components to be reimbursed for lunch. Snacks serves 2 of the 4 categories. You have to have a milk. You can have milk, bread, or bread alternate, whole grain, fruit juice, or vegetable, meat or meat alternate. And you want to always encourage water for a snack. A lot of times I don't do a lot of juice for snack, but I do, we offer them water with their snacks. That's a way of getting their water in every day. Meal planning practices. Plan a lunch that meets CACFP requirements. When I first, and I have been around the CACFP program for many years, but actually trying to do it yourself is kind of like, oh, I didn't meet that requirement, or I didn't meet that requirement. So it takes a little bit of thinking process, and it's not as hard now or difficult because I have been doing it for a while now. But when I would go to the store, it was like, oh gosh, they can't have this, too much sugar in this, because you only have a certain amount of sugar in certain items with the cereal, or they can't have this, and this has to be whole grain. So until you get familiar with it, it does get easier. But when you first start trying to plan a meal, practice plan, and try to meet every target and every component, it's not as easy as what it seems to be. Okay, there's just a practice planning for snack. And you can do these on your own. I won't make them a DQ question or anything. Food budget. Strategies to keep meal service within budget include advanced menu planning, selective food purchases, proper food storage and preparations. So you don't want to purchase too much and then you have a waste, because they will ask you how much milk have you bought in the month. You want to make sure you provide enough milk, but not too much milk. Like for my preschool classroom, they're doing a gallon of 2% milk a day. Yes. But in my toddler room, they're doing a gallon of 2% probably every 2 days. And then I have a whole milk. I purchase for toddlers maybe 1 or 2 gallons a week, because depending on their ages for the milk. If they get white milk, if they get the whole milk, or if they get the 2% milk. Then you want to evaluate the children's likes and dislikes. I have to do a lot of that. What do they really like that I can get by with? They really, really like broccoli. They really, really like corn. I give them mixed vegetables. They love mango bites. They love strawberries. They love blueberries. I just brought that on board. They love blueberries. Their mouths are blue, their hands are blue, their shirts are blue, but they love blueberries. So I try to give them something that they really, really like. They like grits now, but they don't like the plain grits. They like the grits with the cheese in it, which I can get reimbursed for that because it's all whole grain. Disliked food should not be eliminated. One time I tried sliced bell peppers. Oh, they didn't like it. They didn't like it. But then I had a few that did. So I just kept trying it until I ran out of sliced blueberries. I mean, sliced bell peppers. And then eventually I just kind of cut it off because I was like, it's just a waste. We tried it. They're not going to eat it. So I switched it up with something else. Try preparing it and serving it them different in a different way the next time. And here's your reimbursement rates. It's kind of like the public school. You have free, reduced lunches, and then you have paid. So depending on the family's income, because you have to do an income eligibility form for that child one time a year, and depending on their income eligibility, if you will get the full price for the meals, each meal for breakfast, lunch, and snack, or you get a reduced price, or you get the full whole $2.11 per child. And that's 22, 23. So those numbers have they look a little different from what I have. I have to check on that to see if they match. So just think about several ways to create a pleasant mealtime environment for your children and adults. Or if you're not the cook at the center, just think about how your cook, what are the menus for your center, and just look and see how your children are eating their meals throughout the week to see if they're really liking their meals or what they're not eating, what maybe you could suggest to come up with something different. The types of meal service commonly used in programs in schools include plate service, family style, a combination of both styles. Each method offers advantages and disadvantages. The ideal serving method depends upon the children's ages and abilities and the program goals. We really would like to do family style, but we know you cannot do family style and let the children serve their own self with infants and toddlers. Preschoolers, yes. That's also preparing preschoolers for kindergarten because they'll have to hold their own tray. They have to serve it they have staff to serve it in the kitchen, but we prefer family style if possible. Record keeping. Funding sources typically determine the types of records that programs must maintain. Careful record keeping is very, very beneficial for improving a program's food service and monitoring the child's what they like and what they dislike. Record keeping is also helpful for ensuring that meals and nutrition are staying within the budget. Assessment. Foods that are rich in potassium include dairy products, dry beans, potatoes, sweet potatoes, carrots, and cantaloupe, tomatoes, strawberries, and oranges, or salmon, tofu, and almonds. What do you think? Dairy products, dry beans, and potatoes. And my children love all of those. According to CHCFP guidelines, how many different food groups must be included in a lunch served to children? 5. And remember, I said you have to hit all targets for lunch to get that reimbursement. So, like Friday, we did grilled cheese sandwiches. So I had that whole grain bread there. But most of the time, if I don't have that bread, like we do spaghetti, I make sure I add that one component to hit that 5 target. So you got your milk, you got your whole grain bread, you have your fruits and vegetables. First in, first out It's a practice that refers to menu planning, grocery shopping, food storage and use, or meal service. Food storage and use. And this is chapter 17. And I will get that uploaded so you all can get a great start, an early start, as soon as possible. And I will be coming back with the next chapter for this week. Thank you.